Greetings, wonderful people. I'm back. So 5-star hotels. Did I read that? No. While the majority of this Earth population face the hell of malnutrition, I'm gonna put this more towards me. I like to have the camera in front of me. So while the majority of this Earth population face the hell of malnutrition and unhygienic living conditions, so-called lucky people with the funny quantity called money face the hell that is 5-star hotel, the final Shangri-La of this system. The 5 stars stand for dingy, concretey, claustrophobic, unbreathable, and unfractal. Any real being with properly functioning nerves and biological processes can get headache, dizziness within half an hour. The food served there takes the digestive system on a roller coaster ride, while the air conditioning works on giving the guest a cold. All in all, much more dangerous place for biological entities than any slum in an open field. Think about it. Very true. I always felt weird into hotels and stuff. I always told Kim I like better to go camping. Like if we go somewhere, I prefer go camping in nature than sleep in an hotel. I always found it very, very claustrophobic. You feel stuck in there. It's not a good vibe. Very unfractal. A whole lot of rubbish. A whole lot of rubbish. No matter where you go on this planet, you will encounter rubbish. In the so-called developed countries, it is sort of hidden in stockpiles called landfills, some of which are the size of small countries. The so-called developing countries, it is strewn all over everywhere. You cannot miss it no matter how hard you try. All sacred places have it. All lovely nature places have it. There is some local variation. Beer bottles in the west, Gouda packets in the east. Developments equal rubbish generation. More development means more rubbish. Most of it non-biodegradable. All this waste for nothing. Are people happier? No. Wasteful actions of a wasteful people. Only rubbish spewing from their mouth, thoughts, and action. They talk about a whole lot of love, but the fact is just a whole lot of rubbish. It seems their love just produces rubbish. Its definition definitely needs looking into. Next, the wash mania. There is a whole lot of washing going on in this world. People repeatedly rubbing and scrubbing themselves, their car, their homes. The waters around the world gets polluted, but the filth never goes away. After a zillion baths, they still do not realize that only real filth is within. The enemy is not the dust, but the internal attitude, which is misaligned with the divine. And that won't go away by any amount of washing powders. Next, culture and agriculture. The so-called West which is basically just a term for transcendent occupied territory, did not have any culture, so it's pointless to expect them to have agriculture. They did a really good job, a really bad job of learning it too. And the worst part, they are spreading their own hellish mechanical, chemical, genetically modified anti-life version all over the planet. And even the worst part is that others have adopted this madness. Next, myth of independence. The word independence stands out amongst the many buzzwords of the 20th century from an arbitrary reset. Lots of violence have been unleashed for the sake of this word. Many proudly proclaim themselves as independent just because they are able to support themselves financially through one means or the other. So is financial independence independence? What about all the prisons in the mind? And is there any real financial independence? The day the banks say the credit account is not valid, one loses their fictional financial independence. Same goes for the end-drawn lines called countries. There have been major wars of independence in America, India, and the rest. But who got independent from whom? To my eyes, it's still United Kingdom. And all the so-called independent countries are all in debt to a mysterious organization called World Bank, and are all dependent on it for loans to keep their pseudo-economies going. So when all the so-called countries got their so-called independence, it was only a sham, as the strings were now going to be pulled through a more intangible control tool, money. Military control took too much effort. Financial control was far easier. Nobody questioned anything because they were independent. On a personal level, this makes any person feel good. The ego is satisfied by the myth of independence, when the reality is that most are just pawns in a game. The definition of independence has never been asked for Oxford Webster Dictionary. Is satisfactory enough for most? Is a person in a prison with metal bars not independent? They can think what they like, dream what they like, put their attention where they want to. The only real independence anyone ever had was to put their attention where they wanted to, the devil or the divine. This independence is called free will and cannot be taken away by any outside entity or force, unless one misuses it to an extent that, amidst the twists and tangles one feels, one doesn't have a choice anymore. Any other independence which is sold in this world is a soap bubble, which, as we all know, is not something which lasts too long. All these independences do is create an unhumble attitude, because after all, even the Jedis are dependent on the Force. I'll be back.